Deputy Speaker, I'm pleased to rise today to speak on the motion that the Deputy Leader of the Opposition has put forward, and that motion being that this House acknowledges the important UN World Environment Day on 5 June and the importance of protecting South Australia's environment so that it continues to be healthy and productive for generations to come. I'm particularly pleased to speak on this motion, Mr Deputy Speaker. As being a rural member, I'm well versed in the important role our seas and soils play in sustaining life as we know it and ensuring demand for food and water is always outstripped by supply. The Marshall Liberal government took numerous policies to the election under the environment portfolio, as outlined by Minister Spears, and I know him to be a strong and powerful advocate for the environment, Mr Deputy Speaker, and none more important than the reform plan for the natural resources management and coastal protection. In Narungga, there are a plethora of issues being experienced which need addressing, and needless to say, they are issues that would also be proving challenging around the world. Coastal protection is vitally important, particularly at Narungga, with its Yorke Peninsula leg of 3 coastlines totalling 485 kilometres in the Waipi Council area alone, and with more in neighbouring councils like the Copper Coast, Warunga West, Wakefield and Adelaide Plains. Narungga is an electorate bordered almost exclusively by its coastline. There are issues up and down that coastline, Mr Deputy Speaker, with sand drift from Wallaroo to Black Point to Fisherman's Bay. I look forward to working toward a sand replenishment solution with this new government to ensure that our beaches continue to be pristine, beautiful tourism attractions. Unfortunately, I've come across a number of examples of coastal protection which have failed their communities throughout my campaign and my very short time as a member. The beach at Wallaroo, which I mentioned earlier, in front of Otago Road, is suffering from a drift sand build-up at one end and a severe shortage of sand at the other. The shackholders, some of who have been coming for generations, blame the poorly managed and designed rock groin as the source of the issue. I touched on the Fisherman's Bay issues with their boat ramp yesterday, and there's a similar point which is being experienced at Black Point. One wonders about the record the Coastal Protection Board has managed to accrue, Mr Deputy Speaker. Thankfully, the new Marshall Liberal government has committed an extra $5.2 million in practical measures to ensure our beautiful coastline. Included in this extra investment is the Sand Replenishment and Sand Retention Scheme, which will be of wonderful benefit to the beaches of Narungga. We are also committed to establishing 3 more artificial reefs after the success of the shellfish restoration reef constructed at Ardrossan, which went on to be named the Windara Reef. Of course, Windara is the Narungga name for the eastern area of the Yorke Peninsula and is a truly fitting name for that new reef. Other significant projects include the International Bird Sanctuary and the Rewilding Yorks project. I was in Thompson's Beach at the front of the Bird Sanctuary recently, a beautiful Thompson's Beach, Mr Deputy Speaker, and I was fortunate enough to be welcomed into the home of a constituent. Karen Malthouse was a most hospitable host, and the view from her balcony out over the Bird Sanctuary was truly a sight to behold. However, for me, the most breathtaking thing about that view was the sounds that were coming from the birds that inhabit that sanctuary. It was wonderful to see a beautiful habitat and environment working well. Innes National Park is also within the electorate of Narungga, and nature-based tourism is an opportunity which is ripe to grow our state's economy. It contributed approximately $1.3 billion in tourism visitation value to our state in 2017, and I feel it worth noting that more than 40% of visitor expenditure was spent in the regions. I'm pleased with plans to open up this beautiful part of the world to increase visitation, and it is important to note, as we are acknowledging World Environment Day, that this will be ecotourism. I'll not stand by and sacrifice the beautiful Innes National Park without significant assurances that the environment will be preserved, but that would be counterintuitive. People would just stop coming if the environment were tarnished in any way, and in this case, the tourism centre will be located on the existing footprint of the town of Inniston at Stenhouse Bay. This means there will be no impact on the environment, and I look forward to welcoming increased patronage to Innes in the future. I also use this motion to acknowledge the importance of environmental protection, to highlight constituent concerns around the collection and use of the Natural Resources Management Levy, and the concerns have been significant in recent years, leading to the development and announced reform plans which we took to the election and that were, by and large, welcomed by the constituency. Indeed, a statewide survey launched in April 2017 by the Liberal team prior to the election revealed an overwhelming majority of people are dissatisfied with the current natural resource management system that was introduced back in 2004 after the amalgamation of 27 soil boards, 27 pest, animal and plant boards and 8 water catchment boards. The results labelled the NRM dysfunctional, with, quoted from the media at the time, wasteful administrative bureaucracy which has disenfranchised effective local volunteer groups such as Landcare. The conclusion was that levy payers do not think the structure was working well in their region, and anger only mounted when the NRM levy increased by $6.8 million last year without justification, and this after a 26% rise the year before. Shame, Mr Deputy Speaker. People in my electorate understand the importance of looking after the environment, given our region relies heavily on tourists visiting our pristine beaches and on agriculture, which requires effective pest and weed control. Issues were highlighted as long ago as February 2014 by then Acting President of the LGA, Lorraine Rosenberg, who said in local media, "The complexity, inefficiency and inequality of the NRM levy is creating barriers against positive outcomes and must be addressed." As stated prior to the election, the Marshall Liberal government plans to abolish NRM boards and replace them with a new agency, Landscape SA, which will have a Northern and York board in the Narungga electorate. We'll also be capping levies and ensuring money collected locally is spent locally. A novel idea, Mr Deputy Speaker. It is also recognised that so much of the groundwork is done by volunteers, and we will be increasing the amount of grant funding to be made available to smaller local groups for environmental projects. The NRM can't continue to be another taxation source for the government, and we will be restoring independence and putting control of natural resource management back into our regions. Our farmers and regional communities have been the hardest hit by this arbitrary tax increase in recent years, and the reforms will give local communities more control. The $2 million in levies to be quarantined each year will help community organisations and not-for-profit groups in the Yorke Peninsula to deliver on-the-ground environmental projects for better outcomes. It is recognised that managing our natural resources is a mammoth job, with the NRM not only responsible for weed control, but all pest plants, as well as soil, water quality, native vegetation and native animals. There has been success with fox baiting, rabbit control, controlling boxthorn, weeping broom and various revegetation projects, and there is so much more to be done. The new government is committed to the protection and restoration of the environment through our significant reform program. The Liberal Party took a comprehensive suite of policies to the election, covering key areas including natural resource management, coastal protection, more park rangers and the establishment of the new Glenthorne National Park. Done sensitively, this will drive further economic benefits, which is a key commitment of the new Marshall Liberal government. The Liberal Party is focused on delivering improved environmental outcomes, not empty symbolism and token gestures, but real, lasting results that the people of South Australia can see and experience. I'm excited about playing a part in introducing this reform, Mr Deputy Speaker, and look forward to supporting the new Minister for Environment, the Member for Black, in his pursuits to do so.
Member for Finnis.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I also rise to support this motion and thank the Deputy Leader for bringing this motion to the House. This is an area that I've certainly had a lot of interest as a farmer over the years in the environment and managing the environment in a sustainable manner. And one of my privileges in my roles in the dairy industry was I chaired the Australian Dairy Industry Council's sustainability framework working group and managed the whole framework from that chair. To me, the environment is a very important part of agriculture. Here in South Australia,